Want help to grow your business? Download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.
Hello, I'm Wayne Berry and welcome to this episode of Top Gun Sales. In this particular episode, we're going to be looking at how to develop the right mindset, because mindset is so important for success in sales. So if you're wondering who the heck is this guy, I've never heard of him or seen him before, I'd like to give you a little bit of my background. I think that's kind of important because whenever I have an opportunity to hear someone and learn from someone, what always comes up for me is, who is this person? What gives them the right to think that they can share some ideas with me that may be useful to me? So a little bit of my background. Now, it probably immediately becomes obvious that I have a remarkable similarity to Tom Cruise, which is why we called the company Top Gun Business Academy. Well, that's not exactly true, but I am indeed a pilot. And many of the disciplines required to be successful as a pilot, which is kind of important, either that or you crash and burn, these often are very much the same as what it takes to be successful in sales. So I take you back to when I was in high school. I'm thinking about what will I do with the rest of my life. Kind of an important question to ask yourself when you're in high school. Should I go to university or should I get a job? Now, I looked at the university option and frankly, I was in that half of the class that made the top half possible all the way through school. In other words, I hated school. I found it extraordinarily boring. And I wanted to get into real life because I was motivated to create some success in my life. I come from a working class family. A lot of love in my family, but not very much money and not what I call the good things in life. And particularly at 17 years of age in the city that I was born in, which was in Brisbane, Australia, we could have a license at age 17 and start to have a really good time. So my goal was to get into business, get into making money, because back there in my naive way, I thought that money was the best way to measure success. And I looked around at what sort of people were enjoying success, and I must admit, I tended to judge people based on what kind of car they were driving, how they looked. And I used to go up to people in the street and I'd say, well, what job are you involved in? Do you got a motor vehicle like that? And there was this group of people that seemed to have the flashiest of motor vehicles, seemed to have a lot of time in their hands, seemed to be always enjoying life. And I discovered they were in sales. I remember in school being told you have to have a really good education, get good grades so you can get a really good job. And I said, what qualifications do you need to be in sales? And they said, nothing. And I thought, wow, I could probably do that, Maybe I'm even overqualified. So I made a decision to get into sales, and I decided that the best way to do that was, in fact, to join a company that would provide me with very good training. And that company I chose was IBM. Now, I went up to IBM. You can understand they didn't advertise the position. I just fronted up to IBM, asked for the personnel manager and met them, and I gave them my story. I said, look, I'm really keen to join your company. I know you train your salespeople extraordinarily well. They make a lot of money, and I'm highly motivated. Well, my desire to join IBM wasn't matched by their desire to take me on board. In fact, I was told I was too young. You ever been told you're too young, too old, or too something, that you can't succeed? Well, most people at that point give up, but I'm kind of not a quitter. I went to another company called the Xerox Corporation, laid my story on the personnel manager, who said exactly the same thing. Son, I'm sorry, you're too young. Knocked back twice. Wow. A friend told me of another company called the NCR Corporation, back in those days called National Cash, because that's mostly what they concentrated on, was cash register, and it was just getting into the area of point-of-sale terminals, and they just opened a data centre in Brisbane. So I fronted up, asked for the personnel manager, and he came and he met me, and I laid my story on him, and he said, look, son, you really are too young. We have a policy you have to be 25 years of age before you can join this company. And I said, look, I'm really passionate about joining this company. I believe I have a great deal to offer. And he said, well, that's our policy. He said, but you know what? I recognise in you some enthusiasm, some really high desire to join us. And I'm just preparing an advertisement right now for a sales support role. And I said, is there any age criteria on the sales support role? He said, no, but we're looking for someone a lot older really than you, but hey, come and have a chat with me. And I said, well, look, I think that'd be a really good idea because it'd save you money. You don't even have to place the advertisement. I'm here and I'm ready to go. And I think possibly you're seeing right now how important attitude is to our success in sales. You see, I was selling myself in those early days, and had it not been for my enthusiasm and mindset, an unshakable belief in myself, even as a 17-year-old kid, that I probably wouldn't have gotten that sales opportunity with NCR. Carry a long story short, I did work for NCR. I joined in a sales support capacity. I worked for the national accounts manager who looked after the major accounts. He went on long service leave 3 months after I joined the company. And no one much cared what this 17-year-old kid was doing. I went to his boss and said, what should I be doing while Graham's away? He said, well, check through the files and learn some more about the equipment and so forth and so on. Frankly, I got bored very, very quickly with that. And after about a week of doing that, I gave myself a promotion. I promoted myself to sales. And again, because nobody much cared what this kid was doing, if you can get this in your mind, a 17-year-old fresh-faced kid, literally less than 12 months out of high school. And I thought, well, if I'm going to be in sales, might as well give myself the best territory. So I gave myself the CBD in Brisbane. I went out and I hit the streets and I started cold calling, literally cold calling on retailers. And again, you're going to picture this kid in his brand new suit, 17 years of age, calling on large companies, small shops, whatever the shop was in the street, I would bowl in and I would introduce myself. I got knockback after knockback after knockback. Now, again, when attitude comes into this, most people would have given up at this point, but not me. And I didn't have a very good approach, and we'll be talking about the words that we use, and I used to just simply roll up, introduce myself and say, would you like to buy a cash register? Now, I don't know whether you've noticed, but most retailers already have one, and that was called an objection. I thought one day, well, maybe I should say, well, I notice it's one of ours. Possibly you may like to buy some supplies for that. And very quickly I had my first customer. I was so excited. I think they probably spent all of, $3.27 or something like that on rolls. I went back, I bought the rolls from the company and I delivered them. I had my first customer, very, very excited. And from that day on, I got lots and lots of business for supplies. No equipment sales, but supplies. And I would lay the receipts on the corner of my sales manager's desk, hoping he will notice and be amazed. And one day he was amazed. He called me in. He said, do you know anything about these? I said, yes, they're mine. He said, get them off my desk. This wasn't the response I was expecting. He said, well, like, what are these? I explained to him what I was doing, and I swear I saw him change colour. He said, what have you been doing? And I explained in detail. He said, my goodness, who said you could do that? I said, well, nobody said I couldn't do that. And I got really bored. He said, well, you really want to be in sales, son, don't you? I said, absolutely. He said, I've got a special territory I've been saving for someone just like you. He was on the far side of town where they didn't speak very much English, and he sent me over there and he gave me a really good 3-step sales training program. Maybe you've done this one. He said, here's the map, that's your territory. He said, number 2, here's some business cards. He didn't work out, cross his name out, put your name in there. Number 3, here's the daily report. You've got to make 25 calls per day. Now, I was so bad I could make 25 calls and be rejected by 25 people before morning tea. Making 100 calls a day was not a challenge for me at all. Now, again, I come back to mental attitude. I had a great deal of drive, and I just wouldn't care about a knockback. He allowed me to do this for around about a week, called me into his office, said, how's it going? I said, I've got lots of prospects, which meant what? I hadn't sold anything, but I was optimistic. That's really all it came down to. And he said, look, I thought you would have given up by now. Now, this wasn't the motivational chat I was expecting. And he said, no, look, seriously, I thought you would have given up. I said, no, I'm not going to give up. He said, I can see you really have a high desire to be in sales. If you're prepared to be here at 7 o'clock every morning, I will give you 1 hour of training. He did and I did, and I'll cut a really long story short here. I was in the top 10% of sales performers in that company in the first 12 months at 18 years of age. I was selected to represent Australia. I was in the top 10% of performers, and we had a conference every year. And that year, international conference, I was in the top 10%, not just in Australia, but internationally. And we went to Las Vegas. Now, can you imagine the trouble an 18-year-old kid from Brisbane could get into in Las Vegas back in that era, when the Las Vegas was run by the mafia? But I went there and we checked into the Caesar's Palace and I thought, wow, if this is sales, I'm really glad I made this career decision. Now, I tell you that so you know where I come from. That is truly my background. No privileged background, no background in business, no background in sales, but my desire was extremely high. And that's so important in terms of having the right mindset to be in sales, that your desire is very, very high. I then was with that company. I never ever was 25 years of age with that company. I had moved on by then. I moved into a sales management role with another company in the IT industry, and I discovered how little I really knew about sales management because I moved into sales management. And again, I discovered the real key to success in sales management was in fact developing the skills and strategies, and they were an entirely different set of skills and strategies that made me successful in sales. I did develop those skills. I was successful in sales management. I loved it so much, working with salespeople, helping them to be successful, that I created my own company, which today is called the Top Gun Business Academy International. And we focus on training salespeople, sales managers, business owners, nationally and internationally, because all of our programs now are online, and you view the programs online. You work with a live Top Gun sales coach anywhere in the world from wherever you happen to be over a period of 12 months, and we get enormous results, and that's very gratifying from my point of view. So look, that's my background, that's where I come from, and I hope that gives you some idea of why I'm kind of qualified to be talking about the subject of success in sales. In fact, it's been more than 38 years now that I've had my business of my own at a very young age, around about 22 years of age, working with business people to create sales success. So in this program, I thought we might talk about how important is your attitude to sales success. Well, interesting thing is that Harvard University did a study quite a number of years ago now. They found that there were three major factors that determine our success in sales. In fact, I'm going to suggest these three major factors determine our success in life in general. So when they did this study, what they discovered was that product and industry knowledge was kind of important in sales. For us to get a really good result, we needed to know about the product, we needed to know about the industry. However, it wasn't enough to simply have that knowledge. The next factor they determined was actually selling skills, selling and negotiating skills, and skills are kind of important. The third factor they discovered was this one here called attitude. Interesting. Attitude. Now, when they went into it and they did the research, they discovered something kind of interesting. Now, you would think that product and industry knowledge enormously important to be successful in sales. They discovered that the most successful salespeople and business people, only roughly 10% of their success came down to their product and industry knowledge. I'm sure you probably know people who have a great deal of experience, a great deal of product and industry knowledge, but they're certainly not successful in sales. So skills seems to be a fairly important factor, but again, kind of interesting. Only roughly 10% skills determine our success. Now, does this mean you only need to know around about 10% of all the skills and strategies? No, not at all. How much should you know? 100%. Similarly, you don't need to know 10% about your product and industry. You need to know 100%, but it's only going to contribute roughly 10%. Now, I'm sure you've done the arithmetic and worked out already that attitude was 80%. I'll say that again. Attitude was in fact 80%. Enormous. I'm sure you've heard the expression, attitude is everything. Well, it's not quite everything, but 80%. Now, I apply this in every area of our life. I see people who are enormously successful, who lack talent, who lack skill, who lack experience, but their attitude is just such a driving factor that they succeed. Because you know what I've noticed is that when you've got a great attitude, you'll in fact develop the skills. You'll develop the product and industry knowledge that will take you to the level of success that you would like to enjoy. So part of this attitude is coloured by how you feel about selling. So here's a really good question for you right now. How do you feel about selling? How do you feel about being involved in sales? Now, if you're a small to medium-sized business operator and you are in sales.
To continue enjoying this presentation, download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.